Hello and good morning, everyone. I am so excited to be here today at the SpouseLink live stream. So, military spouse career opportunities are difficult to find and a huge source of frustration, especially for military spouses that want to be employed. With an unemployment rate that typically hovers around 24% year after year, with a national average of around 4 to 6%, the lack of options for military spouses to build their wealth and strengthen their family finances and create a strong financial foundation to prepare for transition and retirement is one of the top 5 issues that are facing military families today. More and more organizations are recognizing the need to support the military spouse career growth. And Hiring Our Heroes, if you haven't heard of them, you will hear about them today. But Hiring Our Heroes has answered this call. They have an intensive 2-day career development course called Amplify. And today, my guest is going to be talking and telling you a little bit more about that program. So thank you for joining me. If you don't know who I am, I'm Anna Larson. I'm a SpouseLink ambassador for retiring and transitioning military families. I'm also a copywriter and a digital marketer by trade. I'm a homeschool mom, and I am a retired military spouse as of 1 year. So these live streams that I do are for military spouses that are looking for connection and support as they near that transition and crossover time frame from the active duty military world into the civilian world. SpouseLink has supported this effort. It was created in 2012 by AFMA, the American Armed Forces Mutual Aid Association, to support, inform, and inspire military spouses around the world. So as we dive into today's topic, please leave comments, share your experiences, let us know where you're joining us from. I really, truly value what you have to say, what you want to know. We want to hear your questions. Tell us where you're joining us from. So anyhow, glad to be starting today's live stream. So I am going to pop up this and introduce our guest for the day, Jacob Coombs. Now, we didn't discuss it at all behind the scenes, but I know Jacob from a year and a half, 2 years past or so. And I just want to say, I watched him walk down a runway, first of all, but second of all, he has the greatest rip the jacket off, fling it into the crowd move I have ever seen. So I'm hoping we might get to see that later today at the end of the live stream. I don't know. We'll see. Anyhow, okay, let me introduce Jacob really quick. So Jacob is the manager of events and engagement with Hiring Our Heroes military spouse program. His role in this capacity takes him all over the country as he helps manage both the Amplify and Grow event offerings for the team. Jacob is a proud Army brat and loves giving back to the greater military community in any way that he can. That totally embodies. That's like a very short and sweet version of who Jacob is. There is so much more, but I'm going to let him tell you a little bit more about himself. Let me take this down and bring Jacob in.
Hello. Thank you for having me today, Anna. It's so great to be with you guys.
Hi, Melissa. So good to have you with us. Jacob, I am so excited to have this conversation with you today. Military spousal employment it's a huge topic near and dear to my heart, right? As a military spouse, I definitely was one that wanted to have my own career. I got very fortunate early on and found a company that allowed me to work remotely and even gave me extended leave of absences when we left and went overseas, and I was unable to work from overseas. And so I managed to maintain a career with the same company for almost 14 years. And that's unheard of.
That is a unicorn. That is definitely a unicorn in this community for sure.
It is absolutely a unicorn. I didn't realize how fortunate I was to have found a position like that until I really started to dive into entrepreneurship, working for myself, freelancing after I left that position, and really started to hear the stories of some of my fellow military spouses. So I think this topic today, especially as families are nearing that transition and retirement phase where everything's already upside down, and now you're really looking at finances and you're looking at a career and an income that is going away.
Right.
And it's really super stressful, right? Hi, Selena. Anyway, so let's dive into our first question for you because really, I just want people to know a little bit more about who you are and kind of where you're coming from. So can you tell us, like, what's your connection to the military? We hear Army Bravo. What does that really mean? And how does
Well,
it apply to what you're doing now?
absolutely. I always love kicking off my Amplify and Grow events with a little bit of background about myself, usually going into this topic. Always like to start off and say, hey, full disclosure, guys, I'm not a military spouse. I'm not a veteran. I'm not a service member, but I am an Army brat of 22, almost 23 years. So I know a lot about this community, right? My life has been affected by moves every 2, 3 years. I think our shortest assignment was 6 months. Uh, I know my way around some brown boxes and some moving vans, right? So with that, growing up in this community, what I was always so appreciative of is how often and how well we take care of one another, right? Every time that you're moving in, whether you were the new person or there was a new person moving in on your block, it's really community that puts their arms around one another and helps them feel welcomed into this new environment, into this new community. So with that, I knew that I wanted to give back to the military community in some way, shape, or form. In high school, that actually started with being voluntold to be a member of my mom's military nonprofit called Operation Deploy Your Dress. So it was her and a bunch of her friends out in Fort Bliss, El Paso, Texas. They were bringing in all these ball gowns, gently used, brand new ball gowns. And when they first started out, it was them and really the kids that they bring in. So here we are. I was either a junior or senior in high school, something like that, lugging around hundreds of pounds of dresses from one place to the other. But what I loved about it is it really gave me a taste to see, hey, how impactful and appreciative everyone is in this community. So once I got further down the line and I got towards graduating college, I had a few boxes that I wanted to check. One, I knew that I wanted to serve the military community. And two, I knew that I wanted to stay in the DC area where I had done my 4 years of undergrad and where I've been calling home for the past 7 years now. So
Yeah.
that was really my connection to the military. And I guess I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but that's really how I started to break into hiring our heroes a little later down the line.
I love that story. First of all, I love that you were voluntold. I don't know a single military child that has not been voluntold at some point in their life that they're going to support someone or something military related, right?
Right.
Yes. And like Selena, I am obsessed with your mom, Yvonne. She's fantastic. And her nonprofit, deploying the Operation Deploy Your Dress, is an amazing nonprofit. So you had this strong military spouse role model in your life. And I think I can't help but say that I would love to think that that is partly why you feel such a strong connection to this community. Well, we definitely appreciate the fact that you wanted to stay within the military spouse community. And I know what you're doing right now is hugely impactful. I want to pull up this slide that I created, and this came from the 2021 Blue Star Families Survey, and it's just a few of the many facts that they had thrown out about military spouse unemployment. And this is basically, these few facts that are going to be talking about why your programs, the Amplify program, the Grow program, and pretty much everything that Hiring Our Heroes is doing for the most part, really makes an impact. And then we can talk specifically about how retiring and transitioning families can take advantage of what you're offering. So one of the big ones is the 47%. So employment or underemployment actually also is a top 5 issue across the board for all military families. Almost half of our service members and their families feel like this is a major, major thing. The second part, of course, is that relocation. And whether you're PCSing or you're facing that retirement and transition, relocation means a new job, because remote positions are they're hard to find and hard to keep. And, I know that right now there's a lot of organizations working hard to try and make this an easier process, but the reality is it's not 100% yet at this point.
Right.
Yeah. And then the last one, 68% of spouses that are not working but want to be working are feeling some and great amounts of stress over this. And I have this little infographic there about some of the reasons why they're not working, long hours,
Mhm.
childcare, having to homeschool, PCSs and relocations. I mean, like all of these things that military community deals with. And so, like in your journey in working with military spouses, like you hear this echoed from the people that you are working with?
I do. I do. Really, something that I want to bring in is we have one of our partners that comes in with Amplify with USAA, and a quote that they bring to the table is, "Hey, military spouse employment is actually a matter of national defense." Right. So, and his tie into that is saying, hey, as a service member, he was a prior service member. Whenever I'm deployed and serving my country in that facet, my mind needs to be 100% on the mission. I need to make sure that my family is taken care of back home. If my spouse is happy in their career, if they're happy with the finances, if there's all of this other stuff going on, then that alleviates the stress off of the service member and infold, alleviates the stress off of the household, right? So this is something that is felt within our community and within the organizations that we work with. As you mentioned before, the military spouse unemployment rate tends to hover around 24%. If you
Yeah.
look at the service member, the veteran unemployment rate, that hovers usually closer towards the national average, which puts us in that 4 to 6 range. So the fact that military spouse unemployment is that much higher is such a concern, right? And to kind of unpack some of those numbers there, we talk about that relocation. Something that we hear from our attendees at our events is, it's hard for me to find employment because we're moving every 2, 3, 4 years. Something that we are trying to, I guess, pivot the mindset about is that, hey, we have to go ahead and change the way that we are presenting ourselves to these organizations, right? So whenever we are told to say, hey, I'm a military spouse, and that might be a negative as far as getting hired on at a certain organization. Well, you can flip the script and say, hey, even though I'm only here for 3 to 4 years, I am hungry, I'm ready to make an impact with your organization. And actually, if you look at the newer generations, if you look at the millennials and the generations coming up, nobody is staying at an organization 10, 15, 20 years anymore. Those generations are actually only staying on an average of 3 to 4 years at a time, right? So the landscape is shifting. And in turn, we need to kind of shift our mindset and our approach to these interviews and to these organizations whenever we're selling ourselves for these positions. So that's something that we're working on. That's something that we really tried to tackle at these Amplify events. Again, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here because I know that we'll unpack Amplify later on in the program.
We do.
Something that we do see is a lot of the times whenever spouses can't find employment, what do we end up doing? Well, we end up going and seeking further education, right? So a lot of those numbers that we pull in from our attendees is first off, there is no education requirement or minimum to attend an Amplify program. So we have anyone from a GED all the way up to PhDs for these because it's supposed to tackle every stage of the career journey. But something that we see is time and time again, when we're pulling these numbers, year after year for these Amplify events, this is one of the most educated communities that we have, right? People are out there with masters and PhDs left, right, and center. And really it's about trying to shift the focus from that and now using all of those skills that you've learned in school and bringing them to an organization.
Yeah, it's in doing some research for this live stream. When I went on to the Hiring Our Heroes LinkedIn page and just started reading through some of the posts you have, and there was one on there. I actually screenshot it, and I didn't put it on the slides. I wish I had now, but it was a screenshot that said military spouses are more highly educated than most working Americans, with 88% of military spouses having a higher levels of education, higher than post high school education, and like 35% have at least some sort of college degree, and another 15% on top of that with that master's or postgraduate doctorate type or PhD or something that's postgraduate, that kind of thing. I mean, those are amazing numbers, and the fact that we can barely touch the surface in finding jobs for these highly educated men and women, it's got to be frustrating. So we did have a question come in. Jared asked, with remote positions readily available, why does the 47% rate in relocation problems still exist? So I'm assuming that you talk about this, right?
What's that?
I'm assuming you talk about this in hiring our heroes and kind of your efforts, right?
Yeah, so I think that there's a little bit of a caveat to this question. There are a lot of remote positions, but now that we are kind of coming towards the back end of the pandemic, a lot of organizations have done their study on remote works, right? So we know that it can work, but a lot of organizations are switching more towards a hybrid model or really trying to get their people back into the office. So remote positions are now starting to be a little bit harder to come by. So I just don't think that that is a one-to-one solution to that problem. Yeah, it really also depends on the industries of focus that you're trying to get into. There are some industries where remote work isn't an option, right?
Yeah.
So it really depends on what you're looking to break into, and if that organization is really trying to pivot back into that in-person model, or if they can go off of that fully remote model.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I think also, like I was saying before, I was very fortunate in what I found. Remote work was almost unheard of in the early 2000s when I got my original job, right? And that ages me a little bit, but whatever. But now, looking at it now, I kind of had the same thoughts at first as Jared did, like, hey, there's tons of remote positions available. But when you really start to think about working for a specific degree or going to college and really wanting to work in a specific field, and then trying to find a remote position that values your level of education and your abilities and your skill sets, it is really difficult to find, something that's maybe not like a little bit more on the, I don't know, entry level type of work that's remote.
Right.
It's hard to find a managerial or, a higher level position that really pays you what you're worth in terms of like your education and skill sets.
So that is definitely a dilemma, an issue that we see with our attendees at Amplify. Because again, we've talked about it, that we've got people that come in with masters or PhDs. They have all this education, but depending on the family situation, what's going on in their life right now, that they're at a different stage of their career journey. And sometimes they might not be in a situation where they can take that dream job, but instead they're going to have to take a job that's really that filler in there, right? So we always say that is a stepping stone in their career journey. Just because you have to take a job that is important to putting food on your family's table doesn't mean that has to be your forever career, right? So we do take that into account. That is something that we hear from our attendees. And really, we just try to echo the message that, hey, your career journey isn't done today. It's really just building those stones, building those connections, building that network to get you to where you want to be down the line.
Yeah. Okay, so we keep talking about all of this, so I'm going to let's jump into Amplify and let's hear a little bit more about it. So Jacob, can you tell us what is Amplify? How does it answer that call to action for military spouses needing and wanting to be employed?
Yeah, this is perfect. So Amplify is our 2-day career intensive offering. And so what we do, this is open to really the greater military community, but it is target focused for military spouses. A lot of our presentation, a lot of our language is geared specifically towards military spouses. And over the 2 days, it's roughly 15, 16 hours. It sounds like a lot. That's because it is a lot, right? I'm usually at the end of it, everybody's talking about how they have to take a nap. They've got to let their brain digest all the materials. But we take you through industry specific presentations such as resume writing, public and professional speaking, interview skills, LinkedIn for military spouses, networking in the modern world. So it's really using your social media tools to help build and expand those networks. And a lot of these presentations are either given by people from my team, my colleagues, my staff, or it'll be through partners. So for different Amplifies, we'll have different presenting sponsors and partners. A lot of the times we'll see representatives from USAA, Capital One, Wyndham, T-Mobile, Booz Allen and Hamilton. So many different people that volunteer their time to come in and give you some some specific insight to how their organization works, but then also that broader level information on how to be successful on these different topics. So what's great about this is, one, we again bring in people from all different facets of their career journey, all different facets of education, and we try to give them the tools to be their biggest cheerleader, right? Because whenever you're going through these interviews, most of the time, it's daunting, right? You don't know if you're doing things the right way. You don't know what you're missing, because it gets chalked up to you don't know what you don't know until you don't know it, right? So we try to plug in all of those gaps and help these people be as well-rounded as a candidate and an individual as possible while they continue on with their career journeys.
So would you say that, because what I'm hearing from you is like this combination of things, because I'm thinking, well, if you have a postgraduate degree and you've been in the workforce before, perhaps for a while, like where does Amplify come in? Because it's almost like there's like an entry level kind of effort where, hey, we're going to teach you how to interview. We're going to make sure you know how to do this. But then when you've kind of already done this in the past and now you're trying to get back into the workforce, so you kind of have, it's a something for everyone kind of program.
It is a something for everyone program, because I would say even if we even have people that attend Amplify that are currently employed. So there's a few different things to unpack there. These might be individuals that are looking to either just grow professionally, right? Because there's a lot of professional development that goes on in these 2 days, or they're looking to pivot to a different career. Another thing that is a nice little perk to our Amplify events is we do offer a 1-hour mentor hour, right? So whenever you put in your application for a Amplify session, we ask you all sorts of different questions about where you're at in your career journey, what you're looking to do, what your industry of expertise is. And then we take our pool of mentor volunteers and we try to match you up as closely to everything that's on your wish list. And this is going to be an industry expert in that desired field that can show you the ropes, can answer your questions, and kind of help either build that bridge to where you want to go, or really just help you along again on that career journey.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
The two other perks, even if you came in and said, hey, I'm perfect, I've got a perfect resume, I don't need any help there, I've got interview skills down, I'm not looking for a new job. Well, there are still other perks to it. Something else that you get is a 1-year free LinkedIn premium subscription. I know that is huge in the business world. That is huge just in networking, right? So we go ahead and take that and give you guys a free year code. And then the other kicker for our in-person events, we can't do these virtually. We can't do this part virtually. But we do offer free professional headshots as well.
That's fantastic. I love that. I think that, yes. So I just briefly kind of scrolled through, and actually I'm going to throw it up here. I just briefly scrolled through kind of like, this is your sample agenda, right? A sample agenda of something you've done. And even the public and professional speaking side of things, like these are skill sets that you may or may not need in your upcoming position. But I was so impressed with the different kinds of things. Salary negotiation, that's huge. I don't care how long you've been in the workforce. That could be something that could be super, super helpful. Resume presentation. Like, I love the way you've outlined this, because it really does feel like whether you're just entering the workforce for the first time, or whether you've been there for a while. I mean, I know for me, if I had to go back and interview, it's been, gosh, I don't even know how many years since I have interviewed with someone. And also writing a resume, right? My resume looks like it came from early 2000s, because that's the last time I really needed a resume to hand out to someone. I mean, I've got a CV and all my, whatever listed on it, but it's not a resume that I would necessarily throw out to a potential employer in that sense. So I can see how this would be something that would be super helpful. And I love that you've tailored it to military spouses specific. We do not find that, speaking as a military spouse, we are often the add-on to the, hey, we're doing this for so-and-so. Oh, and spouses can attend too. Right. But this is specific for spouses. And so I really love that.
That's something that we hear all the time, right? And so like I said, it is open to transitioning service members. We won't turn them away by any means whatsoever, but a lot of our language is directly tailored towards military spouses. This is for the military spouses. We are here. We want to be your guys' voice, your guys' champion, as best as we can.
Okay. So my next question then comes, like, you go through this 2-day program, this intensive, you met with this mentor, you've listened to all the things, you're pumped up, you're excited. What is the typical outcome now for this military spouse that has done this cohort, that has done these 2 days? Like, now what? What's next?
So now, typically we see people charged up, right? Because that is a pretty hefty 2 days. They're coming away with a lot of shiny new toys, whether that's the new resume, whether that's some new confidence, some new expertise in the different industries that they're trying to break into. And we don't just kind of leave you there, right? We don't say, hey, thanks for those 2 days. Best of luck. We do create an alumni group on LinkedIn. So anybody that has gone through our Amplify programs, they are encouraged to join those groups. We create a specific cohort Padlet. So for everybody that you went through Amplify with, you guys can keep in touch. So in that Padlet, we also have all sorts of different resources from the events, whether that was the presentations or different links to a lot of the times people like to talk about books and stuff that help them on their career journeys. So links to all that fun stuff in there. But then we also do check-ins. So I've got to look back to see when our specific check-ins are, but we want to make sure that, hey, we're checking in to see if you need any more help, and also to see if you've gotten a job within the 90 days since graduating Amplify. Because if so, that's one, things that we want to keep track of. But then two, we want to celebrate those successes, right? We have these people coming in with us that are saying, hey, I haven't worked for 4 or 5 years. I have this career gap. I don't know how to, express that to employers. We give you the tools. We've heard the struggles on the career journey. We want to celebrate it whenever we have those successes, whenever we have those victories. So I think another way that we can actually fill the dots or connect the dots is with our GROW program. We made a little bit of a mention to that, but with Amplify, that is our career development, our professional development. And then with GROW, that is more of our military spouse hiring events. So that is where we get 12 to 16 military spouse focused employers. So we bring them to the table and say, hey, military spouses, these people have been trained to work with career gaps, to look for those skill sets that you are bringing to the table. They want to hire individuals just like you. We're bringing them front and center. We just need you to go and talk to them, see if something works out, see if something is a good fit, right? So we try to come full circle with professional development, but then also supplying those opportunities of employment through our GROW program.
Yeah, the combination of the two seems like a really good mixture, right? So you give the skill set and then you offer the opportunity to actually meet with potential employers. And so do you have numbers? I mean, I don't expect you to throw out like specifics, but what kind of success rate are you seeing with the spouses that are going through the Amplify and then tacking on that GROW events along with it?
So I don't have the numbers handy for the 90 days, but I do know that with our post-event survey that we end up seeing a 99% satisfactory rate. When what we're trying to measure in those surveys is we do a pre-survey and we ask you, hey, how confident are you with X, Y, and Z, whether that is your public and professional speaking, your interview skills, your resume. And then we'll come back in and send out a post-event survey asking those same questions. And I would say really 9 times out of 10, we are getting people that are showing growth and improvement between the pre and the post surveys, right? So we're feeling more confident about our resumes, our ability to speak to our specific career journey. Because my boss likes to talk about how, hey, any day of the week, we could talk about our service member, what they do and their job, but oftentimes we get a little bit shy about talking about ourselves, right? And that shouldn't be the case. So that is definitely a huge goal of Amplify, is to say, hey, your career journey matters too. This is something that you've got to be able to do for yourself, right? And so with that, people just get so charged up, get so excited about it.
Yeah.
And then that's why we like to couple in the grow events on the back end. So I think something important to note is that both of these programs are offered in person and virtually. So we
Yeah.
do have location specific events. But all of that can be found on our website, can be found on our virtual calendars. But then we do give those virtual offerings for those people that can't travel to, say, Cannon Air Force Base or to the NCR out here in DC. There are those virtual offerings like you see in September 27th and 28th. So this is going to be the exact same program, but just brought to you on a Zoom platform. Again, I think the only difference between the two is we don't offer professional headshots for the virtual ones, but you get everything else exactly the same.
Yeah, I did want to throw this up there just to give people an idea. You guys really are, I mean, Hiring Our Heroes is really all over the country. We've got Texas, New Mexico, California, DC, Colorado. If you just keep scrolling, you've got New York and Florida. So you're really trying to hit all the major locations where you're going to be finding clusters, I guess I'll call them, of military spouses. How many people can join a cohort, and how difficult is it to apply and get into a cohort?
Okay, so for the virtuals, actually with both of these, we want to try to keep them intimate, right? We don't want you to be a face in the crowd. We want to have some sort of participation and feel like you are a part of this cohort. So for the in-person amplifies, we try to keep them around 40 to 45. For the virtuals, the largest that we've done, I want to say might have been 75, but we still try to keep those, I'd say, around 50 to 60. Because again, once you get a lot of boxes on the screen, you might feel like, well, my voice isn't being heard, right? So yeah. we keep those amplifiers intimate. We want you to have the best experience possible with it. And then with our grow events, the virtual ones, we've had as high as 200 people. And then with the in-persons, again, we try to keep it a little bit more intimate. So we'll kind of keep it around that 50 to 100, depending on the venue, depending on the location of the of that specific event. It really just depends on how many employers we're bringing in. So that one can fluctuate a little bit. But again, we don't want you to just be another face in the crowd. We want you to have the best experience possible. So we try to keep these a little bit more intimate for our participants.
Yeah, I did throw into the comments for anyone that's watching right now. I did throw into the comments, first of all, where they can find the Amplify. So hiringourheroes.org is going to be your main website. We're going to get into that contact in just a minute. Then career services, education, networking, and Amplify. Or I think you guys have a search bar. You can probably just do a search for it. But then I also just threw in the Hiring Our Heroes events. Okay. And so this is going to tell you everything that Hiring Our Heroes is doing right now that may be available for military spouses specifically. And I just want to touch on something you said. You talked about like kind of just that, when that need for military spouses to feel like their voices are being heard, like that they're able to contribute. And I can't tell you how important this is, especially during a retirement and transition. I mean, it is throughout your entire career and military, active duty military, like kind of time frame. But when you hit that retirement and transition, there is this, I guess it's almost like a fear, because you really are, your spouse is ending a long-term career with a steady paycheck, and you don't necessarily have that comfort in knowing that something is going to be there to pick up where that gaping hole is at.
Right.
And this is the kind of stress that is going to directly affect your family relationships, your family's ability to move forward and progress into that post active duty time frame, that deadly gap we talked about with my last live stream, where we're seeing military spouse and veteran suicides happening at alarming rates because they feel so lost. And I love the Amplify and the Grow events kind of tacked onto that, have really given a space for military spouses, specifically in this case, to find purpose after being that active duty spouse for so long. So I just want to encourage anyone that's listening right now. I don't care if you have never entered the workforce before in your entire life. I don't care. If you think this is the direction you want to go, or if you are thinking, I want to be an entrepreneur, or I want to do something really cool, like it's time to like look at that. This, what Jacob and Hiring Our Heroes is offering. Yes, like I just, don't be afraid to say, don't sit back and say, I haven't worked in 20 years. There's no way I'll get a job. Because I think that that is not true.
Right. Yeah.
And you've got a huge community that's trying to support you in helping you through that effort.
Right. So I think it really is just, so I guess before I dive into this point, I want to go ahead and talk to something that you brought up where people say, hey, you know, I've been an active duty spouse for X amount of years, right? What we have found is a lot of spouses that come and attend these events where their service member is transitioning out. A lot of the sentiments is, hey, you had your career for 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it is. Now it's my turn to be, you know, the number one here. You know, we're putting my career needs first. We're going to go ahead and put down roots X here or there, right? So it's always nice to see the spouse kind of step up and say, hey, you know, I'm glad that you had your career. Now it's time for my career, right?
It's my turn. Yes.
I'm not moving anymore. I'm staying here. I'm doing this. So that's always nice to see. But then the other thing that I wanted to tack on is that, well, it totally escaped me.
Lots of train. Just we're awesome, right? We're awesome.
You're awesome. That's it.
Well, before we kind of finish our conversation about Amplify and then the Grow events as well, like I just want to make sure, I want to throw something up. When Jacob and I were behind the scenes just chatting about this live stream and kind of what conversation we wanted to have, he sent me an email and he put this in the email. I want to throw this up there. So this is really specific. It doesn't matter if you are a current service member spouse, or if you are retired, or if you are widowed or separated, or what, it does not matter. If your career journey was ever affected because of a spouse's service career, so any little tenuous link to that military, you are eligible to attend this program. That is a great big deal. Like there's a lot of things that are limited to active duty or limited to specific certain types of spouses. Amplify is not one of those. And I think that's amazing. So listen, this is Jacob's mom. I'm just going to throw her out here for just a minute. She hadn't worked in 20 years, attended Amplify just before COVID, took what she learned and found the perfect job. Like, that's amazing. I love that your mom took advantage of this. I just want to know, did you teach her during the Amplify program? Were you in this position?
I didn't. This was actually probably a couple months before I started with Hiring Our Heroes.
Yeah, but I love that you have a testimonial like straight from your own family, your own mother who is an accomplished military spouse. You know, I think that's amazing. And I think that if people were to dig a little bit into your program, they would find a lot of testimonials like this from people that have attended, that have found true value in what you're doing at Hiring Our Heroes for military spouses. So thank you so much for that.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Anna.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk here. I'm going to move this forward. Let's talk about how we can connect with Hiring Our Heroes, Amplify, and the Grow events, and then also you, Jacob, specifically. Can you just tell people like kind of where they're going and what they're doing?
Yeah, perfect. So we've already kind of thrown a few different nuggets or insights to our website, but if you want to keep up to date with any upcoming Amplifies, you would just go to our hiringourheroes.org website. And there is a military spouse tab at the top. From there, you can find more insight and information for programs across the board, but also Amplify. It'll give you another rundown of the event, as well as where we are coming, whether it is an in-person or virtual event. Again, we've also looked at the event calendar. On that event calendar, that is for Hiring Our Heroes as a whole. So there are programs and events for service members, veterans, and military spouses on there. There's always some good stuff on there, so I encourage you all to check that out. And then for me, if you guys want to go ahead and connect with me on LinkedIn, it's not that common of a name, so you shouldn't find too many Jacob with a K and then Coombs. But then also, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything that I can help you out with, that is my chamber email right there. So my work email. So please feel free to connect with me, and I am always happy to help and steer you in the right direction as best as I can.
Yeah. So just one more quick question. If they go to the Amplify website that I've dropped into the comments, are they going to find the application there, or they just go to a specific event and then apply to attend through the event?
So whenever you go to that calendar, are we able to pull that up?
Yep. Let me pull that calendar up for us right here.
All right, perfect. So let's go to the Amplify page on the top there.
Oh, Amplify at the top. Wait.
Yeah, we'll go that way as well, because we do have it in the event calendar. But if we're going through here, you can click register now on any of these. And then if you go down, that's where you're going to fill in your information. There is going to be a drop-down tab for which event would you like to apply for. That is where you'll select for either the area specific or one of the virtual events. And then it's really just going through next. It doesn't take very long. It will ask for a resume for you to upload, because again, this resume will be used during your mentor matchup hour. So these mentors will help you, really deep dive into different facets of your resume, your LinkedIn page, whatever it is. So it will ask for a few informational pieces such as that. But it is a pretty quick and pretty straightforward application process.
Yeah. And then just for everybody that's out there just kind of listening or watching, I mean, they've got another 7 events through the end of the year, 2 of which are virtual, but events in New York, at Cannon Air Force Base, in San Antonio. I think Cannon's in where? New Mexico?
New Mexico, yes.
New Mexico, yeah. Colorado Springs, the capital, Washington, D.C. region, and then, like I said, 2 virtuals. So if you're in any of those locations and you're a military spouse that's looking for this, and then I'm assuming that in sometime in the next few months, they'll have a new calendar out for the beginning of the year as well, for the upcoming events. But check back here if you want to try and attend a virtual or in-person event, and try Amplify. I'm excited. Like I think it's, yeah. This was something I did not know existed until just this last couple of months. So I am excited to share this with other military spouses in the hopes that they will find some great value and be able to access and utilize this resource, because I think it's a great one.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight for anybody that's close to Colorado Springs, we do have an Amplify event next week, I believe Wednesday, Thursday, the 24th and 25th. So we do have some slots for that as well. I encourage you to sign up. We've got a beautiful venue out at Mount Carmel Veterans Service Center, and I'll be traveling there, so I'll get to meet some people in person. So I'm very excited about that.
Oh, well, that right there is reason to attend the Colorado Springs. You're going to meet Jacob in person. All right. So, okay. So we talked about how to connect with you. We talked about the program itself. We've given out all of the links. I think we've covered more or less everything. Jacob, what would be kind of like your final thoughts for a military spouse that's kind of on the edge and like, I don't know if I have time. I don't know. What would you say to them?
I would say where there's a will, there's a way, right? This is something that if we are going to take charge with our own career journeys, the only person that can do that is you, right? So if you have the time, if you have even a little bit of time for those virtual amplifiers, we don't tie you down to your computer screen the entire time. If you can only attend the virtual, you can have your kids with you, right? We say if you need to walk away and take care of whatever it is that's going on in your life, we understand that. But these are tools and resources that we want to bring to you all. And I just hope that, again, when if there's a will, there's a way. We want you to be your biggest champion, because we are going to be cheering you on as best as we can in our lanes.
Yeah, I would echo that absolutely as being the truth. So Jacob, again, thank you so much for being my guest today. Thank you so much for bringing the information about the Amplify program and the GROW events to the military spouse community, and for supporting retiring and transitioning spouses in, like I mentioned at the very beginning, one of those top 5 concerns that we're seeing right now in military families. And so this entire next month, for everybody that's listening, this entire next month or month and a half, actually, is really going to be focused on opportunities for spouse employment. as they're nearing that transition and retirement or crossed over. It doesn't matter if you've already retired, if you're in the middle of transitioning, or if you're 2 years out or 4 years out, or however many years out. This is information that's going to be for you. So we'll be talking about an entrepreneurial journey. We're going to be talking about programs like Amplify that are available where you can get some good skill sets and get bolstered and ready to enter the workforce. We're going to talk about virtual things that are available, LinkedIn and connecting. If you are listening and you are not on LinkedIn, I'm just going to urge you to join LinkedIn and start to connect. There is a huge military spouse community on LinkedIn that is so supportive, and it covers all the different things that you might be potentially looking for when it comes to employment and whatnot. Melissa had commented earlier, she was excited to hear about this. So I'm excited. Hopefully, Melissa, you can take advantage of the Amplify program, and Jacob, will see you in a cohort that's coming soon, right?
That's it.
All right. Well, we're going to say goodbye. Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate okay, so focusing on this so-called education level is no longer relevant in the job search. Sorry, we had a last-minute comment that just came in. No, I'm not quite sure, Jared, what you're asking there, but what we can do, I mean, Jacob, I don't know if you have a quick answer for him, but if not, then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and respond to you in the comments about the education level and what that might look like when it comes to the Amplify program itself. And otherwise, thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you at the next SpouseLink live stream.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Anna, for having me.
Yep. Thank you.